we are exploring the power of the pedagogy of curation. Curation is a powerful activated classroom teaching approach that encourages our learners to learn by curating content from the web. It encourages them finding and selecting, and then obviously taking their content, arranging it and amplifying it. Now, there is a very popular tool that most people are familiar with, Pinterest, that really is all about curating. All of the boards, as they refer to on Pinterest, are essentially a collection of pins or sites that are curated together. So Pinterest provides a really easy visual way of curating content. So if you want to use Pinterest, go along and sign up for an account if you don't have one. That's pretty straightforward. And I'm just going to quickly lead you through a process of how students could be using this to support curation as a form of learning. Once you sign up for your account, you arrive at your home screen, and your students would obviously need to first sign up for their own accounts, and then they would go through to their own Pinterest page. So clicking on your own Pinterest page, what it does is it then shows you your various overview of the things you've posted, your latest pins, etc. But what we're interested in are the boards. So clicking on boards, boards are really your curated content. So whatever the topic is, let's say, for example, in this example, I'm going to get my students to curate some websites that show the benefits and the dangers of using social media and online sites. So what we'd do is they would firstly need to create a board. So that's a pretty straightforward process. Simply choose create board. And we're going to call this something like social media. And once the students have given the board a name, they simply hit create. The next step now is to populate your board with pins. So pins are basically the content that's going to go on your board. But I want to show you one extra thing you can do with your board. Clicking on this little plus here allows you to add sections. So you can either create a pin that's going to go onto the board, or you can add a section. So you could encourage your students to have multiple subcategories within their curated board. So for example, I could say have a positive use board and then a negative use board. So you'll see it's going to create sections for me. So I'll create another one around negative use. So I've created a board, and the board now has two sections in it. Now you don't need to create sections, as I said, just provides another layer of granularity for your curating. So let us pick one of the boards. Let's take our negative use board here. The next step is to now add content to those boards. And essentially this is what's called pinning. So at any stage when you hit the plus sign, it says, well, do you want to create a pin? And you choose create a pin. Now at this stage, your students would go out and search. This is where the effective reading of curation becomes so powerful. You would send them out to Google the content, to go and look through a whole lot of sites, which I've now done. And so I've identified a website here that deals with some of the negative aspects of using online websites and social media. So once the students have found the sites they want, it's pretty simple. They just copy the URL and then go back to Pinterest, and they're going to add it. Simply they add the URL here, and they choose the board that this URL is going to be pinned to. So there we go. This one is, we're looking all around social media. You'll notice this one, unlike some of them, it has to have an extra click because it's got two sections. So this was the negative use of social media. And what's really important is part of curating is also getting the students to read. And this particular article is how the digital footprint that is left behind can be very negative. So maybe the student will just give this a title, and then they need to say something about it. And this is, again, very important with curation, because this is where the students are trying to draw out the gist of what is being said in a particular article. Right, now, the nice thing about Pinterest, it's all very graphical, so you can either just choose any image and drop it here. You can upload an image, or what you can do is ask it to go to the website. So I've pasted in the website there, and it'll go and have a look at the website to see what images are found on that website. So for example, maybe that's a good image to do with the negative side. So I can now say, well, that's what I like. I'll choose that to add that image to my pin. So basically we're done now. We have given the pin a name. We've explained something about it, and that is the link. And last step is just to hit save. And once that's done, the pin has been saved to our board. And that's essentially the same process that we can see it here that the student will continue to do. So they will repeat this process over and over again, adding pins to different boards. So for example, let's do it one more time. Maybe we'll pick a positive article that deals with the positive side of social media. So around social media improving our businesses and what we can do with it. So again, found a website that shows us. I go back to Pinterest and paste the URL in. I'm going to now choose the board that I want to associate this with. So again, it's social media. It's now this one. It's the positive use of social media. And now I need to add a title. And then obviously a description about what they've read that this article is about. Right, again, there is an opportunity to choose an image. It is important that you have an image because the whole concept of the Pinterest environment is very visual. Again, if you don't like any of these, you can go and find your own image. I'm just going to choose that one over there because this is really about social media and business, and hit save. So now what we do is we have two items that have been pinned into our site, social media. We've got a positive and a negative one. And so our little page, or our curated page of items, has got two articles that have been added. Now, this is where it starts to get interesting. So if the student goes back to their main page, they can now have a look at all their boards that they've created. And so obviously you could have different boards for different projects that they're working on. And so here we've got our social media one, as we can see. Two sections, two pins, and obviously that would get populated more and more. But this is where the next level sort of steps in, and it can get really interesting. So besides just obviously adding more and more pins, what can be done is that the board can be shared. So clicking share board gives you an option to now share this board either via Twitter or Facebook, or simply grabbing the link. So that link could be given to the teacher, could be emailed to you, and so everyone can see it. But what's also interesting is the opportunity to invite collaborators. So this allows more than one student to work on the board at a time. So you can create group projects where more than one student is working on it, and so they would need to invite via email their friends or whoever else is in the group who's going to be working on it. So Pinterest really provides a nice way in which you can quickly curate content into a space. It's nice and visual, and so the students can then start to think about that content. But what's also nice about it is it also provides that extra layer where students need to think a little bit about what that website is. And lastly, you can then encourage conversation, which is another one of the important ACT pedagogies, the pedagogy of conversation. And so you can ask different student groups to go and comment on one another's posts and what they've included in there. So great way to apply the pedagogy of curation. It's very nice and visual, very easy to use. And as a hint, what you can also do is you can get little plugins that work in your Chrome browser or whatever browser you're using to make it really easy for the students to take content that they've found and curate it into their boards. So that is Pinterest and how easy it is to use it to support the pedagogy of curation.